Howdy folks, Jambareeqi here, and guess what? Yesterday was my 30th birthday. Yes, I might not look it, but I'm now 30. I think I have Paul Rudd syndrome. Because I'm getting older, I'm feeling more and more nostalgic towards my childhood memories, so I thought I'd talk about a bunch of British 90s cartoons. The animated series I'll be including in this video are only a fraction of what came out over this period. This video is less of an in-depth retrospective and more of a sample bite of what my country had to offer in the 90s. I've got my baseball cap on and my VHS T-shirt. I'm ready. I'm in the mood. Are you? Let's do this. Okie Doke. Oh man, this show really takes me back to my school day mornings. It's a stop-motion cartoon about a tiny woodland creature called Okie Doke who dedicates all of his time to helping the animals. Okie Doke himself really is the heart of this show, a wholesome and kind gentleman with everyone's best interest at heart. Sure, he can sometimes make mistakes or say the wrong thing, but he's socially confident enough to make a slick recovery after.
You're a fine-looking young shrew.
Not a shrew, I'm a mouse.
But you haven't got a tail, so you can't be a mouse.
Just haven't got a tail.
Ah, anyone can see you're not a shrew. It's just that I forgot my spectacles.
But you don't wear spectacles.
Of course you're a mouse.
He's like a little thumb-sized Fred Rogers, making him the perfect role model for kids. It's impossible to not fall in love with this cheery anthropomorphic acorn, because he's so enthusiastic about doing the right thing, keeping the peace or saving people's feelings.
Someone was ringing my bell.
Yes, it was me.
Ah, I see.
I rang the bell because I've got a bit of a problem.
A problem? Oh, well, you've come to the right place then.
But I also have to compliment the beautiful stop-motion puppets. Just look at the attention to detail and craftsmanship behind them. I really love this show, it holds up so much, and is the perfect cartoon to help cheer you up on a bleak day. Action Man. For those of you who don't know, Action Man is the UK licensed version of Hasbro's G.I. Joe toy line. This was the first attempt to give Action Man his own cartoon series, and boy is it goofy. It quite reminds me of a cheesy 80s action B-movie with its melodramatic tone, muscle-bound characters, and over-the-top set pieces. Even the acting sounds just as hokey.
Hello, X. Guess who's not dead?
Blast you! Destroy him!
Oh, I wouldn't. I've wired this whole storeroom with explosives. One stray shot in here, and this whole building goes up.
Then you grab him!
The show tries to have a stylistic graphic novel look to its character designs, but it's more than obvious that the animators didn't have enough budget to keep it consistent, and we end up with a lot of awkward or weirdly drawn shots. The show includes live action segments too, featuring Action Man's voice actor Mark Griffith reprising the role on a Universal Studios stage. These on-camera bits are just as cheesy as the cartoon, from a low-budget virtual reality set for Action Man's inner psyche.
Blast you, X! Stay out of my mind! Save file and exit.
To a corny PSA at the end of an episode that borders on parody.
Listen up, couch potatoes. Exercise is important. Along with eating and sleeping right, exercise helps make your body strong, toned and alert.
There are some things that I do like about this show though. For example, Action Man's team features a physically disabled hero. I have to praise the cartoon for empowering a character in a wheelchair because it's so important for disabled kids to see themselves in strong roles on children's television.
That plane couldn't have been packing a nuke. There isn't a trace of radiation on my scanners.
Which means, wherever that bomb is, it's still intact.
And that means trouble.
There's also a sense of mystery to the show, because Action Man is suffering from amnesia and keeps getting vague flashbacks, which is an intriguing way to hook kids to watch every episode.
What about me?
Yeah, what about you? Look what happened the last time I trusted you.
I have knowledge of your past. If you don't take me with you, you will never find out what I know.
Action Man is a silly, cheap cartoon that was clearly made just to promote the toys. But I can totally see its appeal to kids. Nuttys Toyland Adventures. Based on the stories by Enid Blyton, Noddy is a little wooden boy who gives rise to local toys for a sixpence. But he also sometimes has to solve crimes or help people in need. I never realised how unique Noddy really is as a character. He's a kid who's making a living as a detective taxi driver in a land of toys. That's actually pretty darn cool if you ask me. Toyland itself has this cute pastel design to it that's super wholesome, looking just like a child's playset, while leaving the existence of humans as mysteriously ambiguous. Noddy is a really endearing lead character, a friendly and joyful kid just trying to get by. We empathise with his struggles, especially when he's unfairly framed for a crime or doesn't get a taxi fare. A lot of Noddy's charm does come from the late voice actress Susan Sheridan, a truly underrated British voice actress.
Good morning, little car. You do look clean and smart. Master Tubby really did give you a very good wash. First of all, we must go to the garage and put some petrol in your tank.
I was lucky enough to befriend and work with Susan before she passed away, so I had a mix of emotions when rewatching this cartoon, because I was both excited to hear her voice and a little sad that I couldn't talk to her again. But I guess that's what's so amazing about animation like Nuttys Toyland Adventures. It can immortalise people's voices in the most magical way.
I'm pleased I had that extra piece of toast at breakfast. It made me strong enough to deal with all this excitement.
Bob the Builder. Bob is a professional builder who performs construction services with help from his team and business partner Wendy. The show is very much about cooperation and teamwork, while also showing how various construction vehicles can be handy for certain jobs. Many kids have a fascination with diggers and lifters, and this stop-motion cartoon plays into that, letting each child have a favourite vehicle. I personally love Lofty because I find his anxious personality really relatable, and I like that Bob is willing to work with him even though he suffers from anxiety.
Come on, Lofty. We've got a pipe to lay.
Okay, Bob. I'm glad that Scarecrow's not around.
Episodes mainly centre on Bob's building gigs, giving kids a better understanding of how important public construction is, and how valuable Bob's job is to the local community. This encourages children to value a less glamorous career that often goes underappreciated. But kids can also get some fun out of the show's antagonist, Spud the Scarecrow. Someone who borders on being a potential villain, but has enough of a sense of guilt to be aware of his mistakes.
Say sorry to Lofty, Spud.
All right, then. Sorry, Lofty.
It's nothing. I couldn't cope with it. It's okay, Spud.
Which is a refreshingly mature take on a rival character for a children's cartoon. Fun fact, the extremely catchy Bob the Builder theme song actually became a #1 hit in the UK. This certainly excited kids across the country, but admittedly upset those who take music charts very seriously.
Can we dig it? Yes. Can we build it? Yes. Can we fix it? Yes.
Percy the Park Keeper. Based on the books by Nick Butterworth, this TV show follows Percy, the keeper of a lovely British wildlife park. The show is pretty much about Percy's daily chores and tasks, but he also does try to look out for the animals too. Percy has this very paternal and caring relationship with the park's talking critters. He helps them face their own personal struggles, but also teaches them important values or how to understand other animals that are different to them.
Silly hedgehog! Why can't you look where you're going? Oh, and why do you have those horrid prickles anyway? They're dangerous. Shouldn't be allowed. Oh, ouch! Oh!
Shush now. I'm sure he didn't mean to hurt you. After all, he didn't know you were going to land on him, now did he? If he did, I think he would have got out of the way, don't you?
It's a really relaxing cartoon that's so peacefully atmospheric and visually detailed that we can smell the pine trees, taste the fresh air, and feel like we're spending a day in the nicest park in England. And the animals themselves are super duper cute. That's not to say that the show is always low stakes or humdrum slice of life, because some episodes can get quite intense, but always end in a way that encourages hope.
I'm sure you'll all be very happy here. Well done, everybody.
I also love Jim Broadbent's soft, tender voice as Percy. He's a big reason why this park keeper is so likeable and easy to get along with.
Well done. That was very clever of you to think of leaving a trail of wool. Funny. It's just the same colour as my jumper.
Postman Pat. This series centres on the daily life of a postman called Pat Clifton, who makes letter and parcel deliveries to his local village of Greendale. Postman Pat is one of the most relaxing British cartoons ever, a really laid-back show that lets audiences soak in its countryside atmosphere and enjoy the charms of the Northern English characters.
Sorry I'm a bit late today, said Pat. It's this blooming hole in the road. I've had to go all round Greendale to get here.
Don't worry, leave it to me. I'll have that hole filled in no time.
I did notice that the show started introducing more absurdist plots in the 90s, but it still kept in spirit with the heart of its concept. A hard-working and friendly postman who genuinely cares about his community.
Well, look who's here. Morning, Miss Hubbard.
Oh, morning, Pat.
Just the day for a bit of painting.
Pat, my canvas, quick, catch it!
I'll get it. Well caught, Hedge.
Director Ivor Wood's fingers are all over the animation too. His distinct handmade charm and subtle prods of the stop-motion puppets undoubtedly carry his artistic identity. Rex the Runt. Unlike a lot of the other cartoons I'll be discussing in this video, Aardman's Rex the Runt is more aimed at adults. The humour for this dog sitcom is quite cynical and sardonic, with very dry delivery by the voice actors.
I'm Dr. Dog, and I'd just like to explain what I'm going to do.
Hold your syringes, mate. You'd better explain the side effects of these experiments.
I'm Dr. Dog, and I'd just like to explain what I'm going to do to you and what the side effects will be.
It can be absurd and surreal, but also witty and smart, with episodes finding comedy in the mundane, while also having fun with the freedom of animation by embracing the sci-fi and fantasy elements.
Have you ever been to a poultry pantry before? Chicken. There's only chicken.
Chicken.
Do you want chicken?
Look, do you have a salad bar?
Salad, yes. All you can eat.
I think it's just chicken.
I also like the way it portrays these housemates as an unconventional family. They're not related, but they stick together like glue, which really challenges the notion of what makes a family. If you want to see an adult cartoon that's the right balance of creative invention and smart wit, then I suggest checking out Rex the Runt. William's Wish Wellingtons. This cartoon is about a little boy called William who owns a pair of magic boots that can grant him any wishes at all. While this might sound like a show in which a child gets whatever he wants without consequences, it's actually quite the opposite. Sure, William will sometimes make wishes for himself, but he more often than not uses the boots to help others, and the wishes don't always get the results he wants. The fun of this show is how William has to use his brains for wishes, because not every idea will work, and some wishes can have dire consequences. Kids will love seeing how William saves the day by picking wishes carefully, teaching them creativity, patience, and smart thinking along the way. If I'm honest though, the best part of this cartoon is the very, very, very catchy theme song. The Adventures of Spot. Based on the books by Eric Hill, this very cute cartoon follows a little dog called Spot who goes about his day each episode. The best way to describe this series is charmingly simple. Its art style is very primitive, as it uses rudimentary shapes and flat colours to create a minimalist design for characters, props and backgrounds. Each episode is also very low stakes too, with stories that put emphasis on everyday life over high tension or vital lessons.
Look, Grandpa, I found a flower.
Oh yes, said Grandpa. That's a tulip.
A tulip, said Spot.
Although it's this modesty that makes the show so likeable, because it strips the comprehensive nature of animation down to something grounded and easy to digest. This series may be unremarkable and kind of plain, because it's children's entertainment at its very, very lightest, but it exhibits the essential principles of animation with impressive attention to detail, with tiny nuances that capture the small hiccups that energetic puppies make, because they're so excited all the time. The Adventures of Spot isn't anything spectacular, it's as basic as kids' cartoons come, but it's pretty harmless overall, and children will totally relate to the puppy's preschool life. Kipper. Onto another dog cartoon, Based on the books by Mick Inkpen, Kipper is sort of like my first sitcom for preschool kids.
I'm sinking! I'm sinking! Help!
It's all right, Tiger. Look, we're home.
Oh. Each episode's story is centered on a comic misunderstanding or accident, with a sense of humour that'll make very little kids laugh, and sometimes even parents might get a quiet chuckle from the dry tone of the show. The art style is very faithful to the original books too, really capturing the soft cuteness of Mick Inkpen's gently drawn illustrations. Kipper is a nice show for kids that introduces them to the situation comedy genre at a young age before they're old enough to watch more mature primetime farces, while also giving them a good role model in the form of an adorable talking dog voiced by Martin Clunes. So we're halfway through this video. I'd just like to remind people to consider clicking the subscribe button. And if you're already subscribed to my channel, please click the notification bell. Okay, give me more British 90s cartoons. Sherlock Holmes in the 22nd century. This cartoon is about Sir Arthur Conan Doyle's great detective ending up in the far distant future, where he tries to tackle London crimes for the local police and various clients, with help from a robot designed to resemble Dr. John Watson. While the show's concept sounds like the perfect premise for a mature dark series, don't expect it to take itself too seriously. It's less like Blade Runner and more reminiscent of Flash Gordon. The setting is gritty and almost dystopian, but the execution of the show is quite campy and kind of cheesy. The series doesn't seem that interested in following Sherlock's relationship with the future much, because he catches up with a history lesson in the first episode.
Flying cars? Talking picture screens, auto-learning devices, women in charge. What's the world come to?
And he adapts to having a robot assistant by episode 2.
Look, old boy, I suppose I didn't realize until I thought I'd lost you how much I have come to depend on you. One mustn't judge the metal of a person by his outside, which in your case is metal, but by what's inside, which is most decidedly Watson.
Which makes the show's whole premise a little redundant, because there's not much culture shock to explore or cover. It's also a cartoon that's very much of its time, from its predictable detective show cliches, like the angry police chief who yells at his star from his desk.
I'm sending you to the brain text.
But sir!
2 isolated instances of crypnotic failure? And you're blaming it on some so-called criminal genius who's been dead for over 200 years?
To how the show's take on the future is from a very 90s perspective. Couple this with some awkward attempts at blending 3D CGI into the hand-drawn animation, and you get one dated-looking series. However, I don't want to say that this is a bad cartoon, because it really isn't. It's a lot of fun because it shows its age and has a campy charm.
Well, we meet at last. Lay down your arms, mortal, or face the wrath of the vampire. Surely you can do better than that, Sherlock Holmes.
Yes, one would do well to deceive the master of deceit. And someone has.
I can totally understand if you loved this show as a kid, because it's quite a blast to watch and wholeheartedly embraces itself. Sure, it could have been an emotionally complex show about Sherlock adapting to the future, but what we got instead is still entertaining for what it is. What's interesting to me is that this series has a very striking resemblance to an animated short I'm working on at the moment. And it gave me an opportunity to think, okay, what can I improve on? What can I make better? What can I do to make my short different to this? Gogs. This Welsh stop-motion cartoon is about a group of Neanderthals and their daily lives, using these cave people's lack of logic, pride and self-respect to create a truly dysfunctional sitcom. A show that shamelessly ignores traditional modern family values and gets away with it because of the uncivilized Stone Age setting. When it wants to get gross, it goes all out. When it wants to be violent, the slapstick has no mercy. There's something endearing about these characters too, because they live in their own little world and keep themselves entertained through primitive instincts and natural surroundings. There's also completely no dialogue at all. It depends entirely on the animation to pull off its ridiculous comedy or tap into the primal thinking of these dopey characters. As stupid as this show is, there's a lot of intellect and creativity behind the plasticine stop motion. This was like the British Simpsons to me as a kid, being one of the shows that me, my parents and my brother would routinely watch together as a family. Gogs isn't for everyone, it's very brash and lowbrow, but I think it's a great example of doing dumb comedy right. Fireman Sam. Set in a Welsh rural village, this beloved series follows the rescue missions of the heroic firefighter Sam and his quirky yet committed brigade. The show was a big favourite of mine as a kid. I was obsessed with it. Maybe because it gave me a hero to calm my anxieties about house fires. One of my biggest fears as a kid. I think a lot of its appeal comes from the tranquil Welsh countryside setting, which features a wide array of villagers. Many of which are pretty much stereotypes, but likeable or funny stereotypes nonetheless, and I appreciate how their Welsh accents play into their characters.
I do like the odd documentary programme myself. Did you see Scoop Wales last night then? It's about sinking houses. It's not news to me, of course. I've always known that this town was built on a rabbit warren of old mining tunnels. Oh!
I also love how these firefighters take their job seriously, while also facing their own relatable problems. It's a show that humanises those working for emergency services, and gives vivid personalities to the professionals who save people for a living.
Rather a fine aroma of traditional breakfast fare, Firefighter Morris.
You can tuck into this all week while I'm staying at the station, sir.
At the same time, it has a lot of educational value for kids, teaching children about the practical efforts of teamwork, the importance of training or practice, and staying calm in dangerous situations. Plus, each episode uses the character of Norman to demonstrate the consequences of behaving badly or causing mischief.
Cool. Wet cement. Hiya, Mr. Evans.
Norman Price, you stay where you are. I don't trust you near my nice level concrete.
I only want to write my name in it. That's...
Oh no, none of your tricks, Norman.
Course not.
Looking back, I do see why it was a childhood favourite of mine. Dennis and Nash. This is a show inspired by the popular Beano comic characters. Dennis is a mischievous little boy who causes trouble with his equally naughty dog Nash, much to the dismay of those around them. You may be wondering about the value of a show that centres on a kid like Dennis, because it's important to give children good influences. But Dennis isn't meant to be a role model, he's more of a power fantasy for kids, someone for children to vent themselves through without causing any real trouble.
You must be...
Dennis!
It's also important to realise that Dennis is a product of the society he lives in, with most adults in his community being super strict, repressive, and even apathetic to how kids feel, only respecting a child if they obey authoritarian command. Dennis is the result of an overly disciplinary approach to raising kids, so it makes sense why he's rebellious and anarchic, someone who resembles the British punk movement. There's a cathartic appeal to Dennis's creative rule-breaking that kids can enjoy watching, especially if a child feels like no one respects them or listens to their feelings. Heck, some kids might find cute, wholesome cartoons to be too twee and boring. Dennis and Nash will fill that void for them.
Oh, Dennis! Don't forget your hairbrush! I won't, Mum! I'll be sure to send it a postcard.
It's also sweet how Dennis's grandmother is his hero, an old lady who doesn't let her age define her personality and maturity. Someone who shows that getting old doesn't mean abandoning your inner child.
Granny, stop this thing at once!
Wishington! Dennis is next!
She's also one of the only adults who validates Dennis's feelings.
Now then, Dennis, why so glum? Oh, nothing, Granny.
Come on, you can tell your Granny. Spit it out, lad.
Dennis and Nash is a fun cartoon that challenges what it means to be an individualistic child in a world where adults are corrupt or controlling. I think it's a true gem of the 90s. Danger Mouse! This action comedy cartoon centers on the exciting missions of secret agent Danger Mouse and his sidekick Penfold. People mainly love this show because of the dynamic between the two lead characters, as they're complete opposites. You see, Danger Mouse is slick and dashing, while Penfold is very immature and easily distracted. The cartoon's comedy is rooted in a classic vaudevillian style of banter between the two, with Danger Mouse constantly suffering from Penfold's incompetence while trying to retain his cool.
You didn't say, what's that you're eating? What is that you're eating? You only said, what's that you're eating?
Penfold? Shush.
Ha!
You might think that Penfold could end up getting frustrating because Danger Mouse is having to take on daring missions as a professional secret agent. But the show never takes itself too seriously. Heck, it can be full-on sarcastic at times. It's that self-aware. The show is as silly as cartoons come, so a lot of the entertainment comes from how difficult Penfold makes things.
Oh!
Come along, Penfold, and keep your eyebrows peeled for hidden dangers.
Hidden dangers?
Yes.
Where are they hiding?
I don't know, Penfold.
Well, what are the dangers?
I don't know, Penfold, because they're hidden.
I'll admit that this series hasn't aged perfectly, because there are a couple of caricatures that can be seen as quite problematic in hindsight. Yikes.
Muglock junk. Duffy, me whoop'em greenback.
However, it's still a good series overall thanks to the comedic pairing of two drastically different heroes. And it makes sense that Danger Mouse has become an iconic character in British culture because he's just so cool. Count Dracula. In this spin-off to Danger Mouse, we follow the adventures of Count Dracula, a vegetarian vampire duck who craves fame and fortune instead of blood. This is a show that caters to kids who develop an interest for horror at a young age, which does happen. It's a series that gives junior horror geeks a show to dig their teeth into, offering family-friendly gothic charm while also putting emphasis more on laughs than scares.
Nanny! Oh, Nanny!
Come in, Ducky Boo!
Nanny, how many times do I have to tell you to use the door?
What door?
What door? That door there!
Oh, all right then.
Oh, come back, Nanny.
But you said...
I know what I said, it doesn't matter.
Count Dracula's sense of humour is rooted in gallows, but remains tasteful and harmless enough for children to laugh at. And adults will get a chuckle out of the show's goofy self-awareness. The fact that Dracula's castle can teleport places also means that every episode is a new exciting surprise, because we never know where the Count will go next to gain power or privilege. The dynamic between the eccentric, money-hungry Dracula and his disgruntled staff is what mainly holds the comedy together. We especially empathise with his butler, who feels ashamed that his master is going against vampire law in favour of superficiality.
As for me, I shall go for a little refreshing bathe in the ocean blue before luncheon.
I fear that is most unlikely, my lord.
Igor, you're such a pessimist, a persistent, no grouch.
This is a cartoon that pays loving tribute to classic horror, while planting its tongue firmly in its cheek. It's kind of like DuckTales meets the Addams Family. Dr. Zitbags' Transylvania Pet Shop. When Dr. Sidney Zitbag is fired from his job at a pet shop, he ends up renting out an old haunted castle from a pair of twins so that he can run his own monster-fied pet shop, with helpful assistance from Horrifido the Skeleton Dog. A bit like Count Dracula, this cartoon will totally appeal to kids who love spooky things or consider Halloween to be the best time of the year. You never know what kind of pet the shop is going to be selling because they're all strange, weird monsters. And Dr. Zitbag can get really enthusiastic when he's got a possible sale.
Tarquin, you may name any pet at all, and I guarantee I can supply it.
I want a weremouse.
A weremouse, is it?
I have to admire Zitbag too. Instead of sulking about being fired, he jumps straight into building a business and becoming his own boss. He's living the dream. That's pretty awesome.
And a glorious monsterification machine. But first, I must find some animals. There's no time to waste. I must get working straight away. I need to earn money to open this place as Dr. Zitbag's Transylvania Pet Shop.
What I love about this show's version of Transylvania is how every single character is a horror-inspired oddity. This is a place where weird is normal and looking unusual is fully accepted. There's something really wonderful about that, because it gives self-conscious kids a sense of comfort about whatever insecurities they might have. This is a very enjoyable, quirky cartoon that celebrates the horror genre through a really imaginative and far-out concept. Funny Bones. Based on the books by Janet and Alan Alberg, Funny Bones is about a family of skeletons called Big, Little, and Dog. This is a really adorable cartoon that manages to make spooky into cute. The dynamic between these skeletons is really endearing because they're just everyday people who happen to be bones. It's so wonderful how Funny Bones can make these creepy characters seem just as human as you or me.
It's an envelope. What's in it? Open it and find out. Good idea. 2 tickets. For a ride on the ghost train. Ghost train?
It's also a great way to introduce preschool kids to the idea of skeletons, teaching them what's inside every person's body, and not to be scared by that fact. Sure, you could just show them a diagram of a skeleton, but I think that Funny Bones is a more fun alternative for toddlers.
These bones can bark again. Woof, woof, can run around in the park again, can frighten people in the dark again. Woof, 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 woof. These bones. Woof.
What I love the most about this cartoon, though, is how it embraces nighttime, turning the dark itself into a character of its own. The show is a perfect bedtime treat for kids. Heck, that's why I chose to talk about this cartoon last. It's a lovely way to end the video.
Good morning, Big.
Good morning, Little. Good morning, Dog.
Woof.
I'm afraid those are all the cartoons I'll be talking about for this video. If any of your favourites weren't included, please don't take it personally. It wasn't out of forgetfulness or laziness, I simply didn't have time. I've been Jambareeqi and I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, then feel free to like, share and subscribe. Also, please consider supporting me through my Patreon. Cheerio, folks.